From separate lives and different paths we have come. From unique insights and differing convictions we have come. From differing beliefs and varying ritual we have come. We have come and we are here to make a common life at the crossroads of our paths, to deepen our insights and to announce our convictions, to travel our separate lives together. We weave the various threads of our lives into the whole cloth of community. Remember, everything is connected in this weaving, and together we celebrate the weaving we create.
A tapestry of faith. While the specific expressions of faith vary widely across different religious denominations, the core concept of faith, generally understood as belief, trust, and confidence in something beyond oneself, often a higher power or a set of religious principles, is common to most, if not all, religions. Different religions may emphasize various aspects of faith, but the underlying principle of accepting something as true or real without complete empirical proof is a universal element. The Christian scriptures inform in the book of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 20, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. In the Bhagavad Gita, faith is not merely belief, but a deep-seated conviction that aligns with one's nature and guides one's actions and destiny. In Judaism, the Torah emphasizes faith as trust and loyalty to God, rather than a mere intellectual acceptance of beliefs. It highlights the importance of living by faith as demonstrated through actions and a continuous striving to understand and connect with God. Moreover, the Torah also acknowledges the human experience of doubt and struggle as part of the journey of faith. In Buddhism, faith is not about blind belief, but rather a confidence and trust in the Buddha's teachings, the path to enlightenment, and the possibility of liberation. It's a positive, motivating force that encourages practitioners to engage with the path and develop wisdom through practice and understanding. It means maintaining trust in God, scriptures, dharma, and the path of liberation. In Hinduism, faith is a multifaceted concept because it's not a religion, but a way of life. And people can become Hindus without being born into the faith because one of my sons is Hindu. It's not simply a blind faith, but rather a principle that can be developed through knowledge, personal experience, and devotion, encompassing trust in God, scriptures, the path of dharma, which means religious conduct, and the ultimate goal of liberation, emphasizing faith as a path to spiritual growth and self-realization, encouraging introspection and the pursuit of truth through various yogic practices, paths. Tens of thousands of people profess to have faith that's tied to a belief in a deity. However, it is possible to have faith without subscribing to religion, because faith, in its essence, is a belief in something or someone, and it doesn't necessarily require a structured religious framework. Individuals can have faith in themselves, a higher power, a secular ideal, humanity, or specific ideals, even without adhering to religious doctrines. Unitarian Universalism is dogma-free, and I find it disturbing to hear people say that we, UUs, can believe whatever we want, because that's actually the farthest thing from the truth. Ours is not a faith of anything goes. Moreover, it's time to lean into whether we really believe it, or are we just saying it to give ourselves the illusion of a faith community so we can feel like we have some kind of faith tradition. Our faith comes from a proud lineage of dissenting people who grounded their beliefs living in the question of how best to be of service to each other. Do we really believe in the values of our faith enough to enact them in the larger world in a manner that is bold, clear, and unequivocal? 2,000 years ago, liberals were persecuted for seeking the freedom to make religious choices. But that very freedom has become central to both Unitarianism and Universalism. Our history with activism and social justice means support that we have faith. As early as the 1830s, both groups were studying and promulgating texts from world religions other than Christianity. By the beginning of the 20th century, humanists within both traditions advocated that people could be religious without believing in God. No one person, no one religion can embrace all religious truths. By the middle of the 20th century, it became clear that Unitarians and Universalists could have a stronger liberal religious voice if they merged their efforts. And they did so in 1961, forming the Unitarian Universalist Association. Many Unitarian Universalists became active in the civil rights movement. James Reeb, a Unitarian Universalist minister, was murdered in Selma, Alabama, after he and 20% of our denomination's ministers responded to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s call to march for justice. For me, faith is tied into hope. I always think that as a species, we can and will be better to ourselves and each other in changes that can be made in the human condition. Again, ties into hope for a future not yet realized. And then there are still others like me who simply rest in the mystery of it all, because my faith is connected to a universal force with strands that weave all living substance together into one palpable life force. If I rest in that, I remain in the present. Therefore, I'm not living in fear of the unknown. In every moment, life offers us an invitation. I really believe that. I really believe that in every moment, life is offering us an invitation to do the things that are the most loving and life-affirming, and that doing the loving and life-affirming thing is always the answer when you don't know what to do, or if you're feeling unsure. There's always a moment of invitation to rethink or reevaluate. We're being invited into the cosmic dance of joy, renewal, and justice. But we must make the decision, because it doesn't just show up without our participation or our effort. Things don't get better just by us waiting for them to happen. We all must engage in making things better from wherever we are, and each moment presents an invitation for us to do that. Being Unitarian Universalist in part means you don't pray the way I pray, or maybe you don't pray at all. But how do we live together in equitable community, despite what I might think about God or what you might think about God? In the publication, The Theology of James Luther Adams, he informs that faith is not fundamentally about one's beliefs, but about one's commitments. Moreover, if you find out what someone values the most, and you will have found out the object of their faith, whether they consider themselves religious or not. Moreover, the issue is not between theism and atheism as concepts of ultimate reality, but between authentic and perverted faith, or, in traditional terms, between true and idolatrous faith. Because when our commitments claim more loyalty than they deserve, when we sacrifice great things in life to small things, that's when we are living out a perverted faith. But on the other hand, authentic faith grows out of critical awareness and of how our commitments are ultimately related. It's rooted in an individual's awareness that they are not God, that perception is always limited, and commitments will always need correction and redirection. Adams loved to say, an examined faith is not worth having, for it can be true only by accident. But authentic faith is an examined, self-critical faith. Unitarian Universalism is a faith that causes us to commit to the work of doing justice. This is a faith that calls us to think about what it means, not to believe the same, but to live together in beloved community, despite our own discrete perspectives about spirituality or the afterlife. That is a part of the call, the mandate of what it is to be Unitarian Universalists. To figure out how we live together in loving, equitable, just relationships with each other. I believe that the proof of our faith is the extent to which we do that. The proof of our faith is not in some confession that we make or in some words that we say. The essence of our endeavor, the proof of what we believe, is in how we do the work of bridging and bringing about love, justice, and community. As Unitarian Universalists, I think we've given up perhaps too quickly on notions of salvation. The English word salvation comes from the same root as salve, a balm for healing. Salve, salvation. Our salvation, our healing, happens when we acknowledge that we serve something sacred, something larger than our own egos. What saves us? An earlier generation of Unitarian and Universalists spoke of salvation by character. We're saved by what we do, by how we treat one another. If we think about the notion of being saved from harm, I don't know if it's actually possible to have personal salvation beyond the community. I don't think there's any way for us to have salvation and some kind of perfect, flourishing life outcome while everything around us is suffering and burning, because we're all connected. If COVID didn't reaffirm that in the minds of all that we're connected, I don't know what else to say. Suffering through a global pandemic together with people passing a deadly virus to each other through our breath that we can't see is the best metaphor for interconnection that I've ever witnessed. Everyone, Unitarian Universalists or not, would do well to think about and remember that. I think that our salvation is intimately tied up in each other's ability to see other people as worthwhile, all human beings as valuable and possessing dignity, all of life as having value and possessing dignity. That's not the same as liking anyone. It's understood that each person has as much of a right to human thriving and flourishing as anybody else, and as much to offer as anyone else. Everyone, you and me. How do we create a context where all of that is possible? That requires sacrifice and time and deep listening and nuance, but that's what being Unitarian Universalist requires. Other faith traditions ask for other things. This is what Unitarian Universalism asks of us. This is what we signed up for. Moreover, the call of our faith is critical right now. We live in uncertain times, filled with devastation, wars, typhoons, earthquakes, floods, and the violence that humans perpetuate one against the other. But in the course of human existence, when has there ever been a time of certainty? We can't see into the future, and we're always as close to expiration as our next breath, because nothing in life is guaranteed. There's a lot of fear-mongering to separate and divide the entire planetary populace if we believe that notion of mine and yours. The notion that in order for me to have enough, I have to watch out that you don't take a larger share. None of us can forget that. Even if, like me, you are feeling frustrated, unsure, or just plain tired. The invitation to participate in a manner that is about living our values, love and justice, is there, no matter what else is going on. People need to know, especially in this moment, what our commitments are. UUA President Sophia Bancourt reminds us, in these times, she says, when resistance takes many forms, the ways in which we live our values in the public square ensure that the dissenting church lives on. If we're going to say that we are a faith that is committed to justice, equity, and compassion in human relations, we have to actually do that. It's not just about saying it. We have to do it. We have to do less talking and more doing. We need to have the collective maturity now to do what our faith asks us to do. Because if you're not going to do that work, if you're not going to be committed to thinking about that and how you can serve in that work, it obfuscates the mandate of what it means to be Unitarian Universalists. Because ours is a faith that calls us to do things. From my heart to yours, may it be so.